Hello, my name is Merete and welcome to my knitting podcast. This is my second episode and I'm still a bit shaky about taping myself, but I think it's much better after I did the first episode. Thank you so much for watching the first episode. I got some really nice likes and comments and I really appreciate that. So thank you very much. And well, the first episode was a lot about my sick leave and my stress and my brain issues, and not a lot about talk about knitting projects. So this time around, I have planned something really special for you. I will be talking to you today about Stephen West. He had a knit along in the fall of 2018, where we all knitted, or a lot of us knitted, the Texture Time shawl, and I did too. And I also knitted a cardigan from that pattern. It was a time where I was deviating a lot from patterns, and this pattern was no exception. So I want to let you in on what happened in that period of time. And as you can tell, maybe I'm wearing the Texture Time cardigan that I managed to get out of that pattern. So I'm just gonna turn around so you can see it. And it got this really nice bottom. Can't see it big, but I can go a little further back so you can see how it is. Got these really nice sleeves. This was a really big project for me. I've never been so creative and self-structuring, if you can say that. But what happened is that I had my birthday in September, which was right before the knit along, and I was my parents gifted me a mannequin, the ones that you place your clothes on, and that has been a really good thing to have, because I could start wrapping my knitting around it and see how it would shape around the body, which made it more visually real for me. I've always been thinking in two-dimensional, and this made me it made it a lot easier to think in how things look on a body. I can't show you it right now because actually I'm using it to hold my phone as a tripod. You have to use whatever you have around you. So that's what I'm using today. I'm gonna take this cardigan out right now because it's summer and it's really hot in here. But I want to dive right into it, and I will talk you through like the process of it all. So it all started because I wanted to knit the Texture Time shawl, and I've been really curious about how Stephen West he chooses colors, and as I also talked about in the introduction, I've had still have a really hard time learning what colors goes together. So I decided to buy a kit from Stephen and Penelope, and I watched one of Stephen West's live videos where he was going through the kits, and he was talking about this one kit that was kind of crazy in the colors, and I was like, if I'm gonna challenge myself, I'm gonna do this this one. And it was this really bright yellow, they were bright pink, and they were forest greens, and like more of skin color, neutral, like my skin color. It was kit number 4. I will add a picture here. So I was just told up how it started to look like. And this was something that scared me a lot because I just didn't like it. It didn't appeal to me at all. And I had so much trouble knitting this shawl. And when I saw the tutorial videos that Stephen West was doing, I became really fond of the colors that he was knitting his shawl in. Um, I have some papers here now. It's flying all over the place. But maybe some of you know this picture with the bright blue and the range of more neutral colors. And that shawl just was really pretty to me. And so I did this really crazy decision that I just knit two shawls at the same time. So maybe I can more appreciate the colors from the kit when I do the other more subtle colors. So that's kind of how I ended up with two sets of colors. And as you know, in a knit along, you don't really know what's gonna happen next. So you knit one section. So the yellow section here was the first, and then you get the next clue for the next two. Well, there were actually two parts, but it's written as one section with the pink here. And as I went along knitting, I was trying to imagine how this shawl would take shape, like what directions would it take. So I put the shawl on my mannequin doll, and I saw that it was kind of shaping around the body, and I will add some pictures, but it was kind of turning around the waist like this. So I started seeing that there were opportunities to do a cardigan or a sweater or whatever. Like if you were able to continue knitting around and then close it in the front, or maybe even have it open and then add sleeves. So that was kind of how the idea came to me for the cardigan. And so I started knitting up the second cardigan, or the second shawl, in the other colors, and then put it on the mannequin. And actually I did some changes during it because I didn't like the Latvian braids. Well, I did like them, but they were too difficult for me to make. They took so long time. So I did find another way to do this kind of a similar like parting between the fluffy part. And what I did was see if I can remember. It's been a long time. I had like 5 rows, like one in the blue, and then a row in where I knitted kind of a brown color, and then I purled one row in the lighter color. I also added some glitter yarns, and then I think, yeah, then I knitted again one row with the darker color, and I knitted one row with the blue color, and then kind of that made the white row kind of doing the braid kind of look. I thought that was kind of neat, and that's a more easy way to get around the Latvian braid part. And as I went along, I tried it on my mannequin and found that I didn't need to knit as many of the wings, as people started call it, the bat wings. So there are original in the pattern. There are five wings or 5 stripes in the wing. I should probably say stripes. And I found that I only needed 3 in the cardigan to make it fit around me. And I will add more pictures to this video so you can see how it looks on the mannequin. Because then it kind of was hibernating for quite a long time on the mannequin because I didn't know what to do next. So when we got the 3rd section clue for the shawl, that was, again, it was kind of waves, stripy. Well, actually, I should tell you that at this time I did knit with the kit number 4 yarn for the entire section 3 and 4, but then I did something else because I always wanted to do one of those fade kind of shawls that Stephen West does, for example in his Chevron shananigan shawl, and I saw that the 3 of the yarns that came with the kit would be really perfect for doing that kind of fade effect in a Chevron shananigan shawl, and I really wanted to do the Chevron shananigan shawl at one time. So when I had knitted up these section 2 and 3, I decided to unravel and save the yarn for a Chevron shananigan shawl. I will add a picture of that too, how that looked before I unraveled. Yeah, so now I kind of had 2 projects that were in a state where I didn't know what to do because I needed new yarns for the texture time shawls in the pink version. I did want to finish it and just leave the yellow part in, and I wanted to find some yarns that went with it. I'm not sure I quite succeeded doing that. I did find a grass green, and then I had actually I did find in my stash, I found the same colorway as I had in the baby cereal yarn. I found that in a sock yarn that I had in my stash, so I kind of decided that I could use that as a stripy effect, and I did have a lot of yellow left too, so I kind of just did this kind of stripy effect that you can probably see here. I'm not all that satisfied, as you can tell, but it's okay. I just decided to live with it. And I used the yellow part as the section 4. And then I actually did the section 5 bind off at the end of section 4, so I didn't do it all the way. I just needed to get done with it, I think, at this point. But it's kind of nice anyway. And also I did some modifications on the shawl. It was supposed to be much more wide than I did, but I figured out how I could make more rapid increases. So it's kind of, and you can also tell the section, if you knitted this shawl, you know that section 5 have 5 holes these kind of cat paws holes, but I kind of just went for it and made it a lot slimmer, because then I felt that it would be easier to wrap around myself. The way I like to wear it is to have the yellow section on my shoulder, like this. So it falls over my shoulder. And it's pretty warm like this. I use it in the winter. I used it quite a bit when I was cold at night in the evenings, because it's kind of just wraps all the way around you. So back to the cardigan. Because I now had the cardigan on my mannequin and I got the clue for section 3, I decided that I would use clue 3 to do the front part of the cardigan. You can tell here that it got the wavy look. And I started knitting like 5-10 centimeters of the pattern. I just didn't knit the where am I? It's kind of hard when you have to look in the camera at the same time. So I just knitted from the stitches where I figured that it would be below the arm, and I just rested the other stitches up here, and I knitted after the pattern for like 10 centimeters, like this much. And then it was I did that on both sides, and then again it was hibernating for a long time on my mannequin, because I couldn't quite figure out how I would get like the waves that were going like this, how I would make it fit around the shoulder, because it was kind of the wave was kind of, I think it was kind of going in at this point where I needed to go out. So I did a lot of calculations and drawings, and I ended up doing this drawing, and this kind of looks odd. So this is how the pattern is, with increases and decreases, and this is how I worked out that I actually had to do a decrease more before I did the I'm sorry. Yeah, I kind of get mixed up. So when it turns this way, it's decreases, and this way it's increases. That makes the wave the other way around. So I kind of figured out how to still use the pattern, but I had to like repeat one part once more before I went back to the pattern, if that makes any sense. And then I had to mirror that way for the other shoulder when I came to that. And then to figure out how many stitches, I had this idea that my shoulders I would knit those like this wide kind of shoulder, and that it would go around and then become a sleeve that could go around and out. But at this point I didn't know the sleeve would take I would use the first clue for the sleeve. I had no idea what I was going to do with the sleeve at this point. So I concentrated on finishing the front part till about here. And then I did that on both sides, and then I still didn't know how I would end the front, if I would gathered it together to make a sweater, or I would make a cardigan. So again, it was hibernating for quite a long time. And also I couldn't figure out what sleeves I wanted. And at one point I decided on the sleeves that I would repeat the clue 1 pattern for the sleeves, that it would be kind of cool also because it already had this part where it became wider at the top. So I figured, because I've been sewing, that kind of looks like a shoulder pattern. If you have sewed the shoulder, when you cut out a shoulder, it would look like, I think I remember, it's been quite a long time, but something like this over the shoulder, and then it comes down, if I remember right. Oh, doesn't matter. That's kind of how it looked on the mannequin, and I figured that out somehow, and now I can't even remember. I'm sorry. But as you can see, it kind of becomes wider and wider, the pattern in clue 1. But I wanted the shoulder to be more square, like wide in the top, to meet the front pieces. So it needed to be wider at the beginning, and then I didn't want it to have it increases that fast, so it would come this wide. I needed it actually to be like this in the beginning. So I did calculations again and figured out a way where I casted on more stitches to begin with, and then I still did the large increases with the yarn overhauls. I'll show you the shoulder. And now it probably makes more sense. So I casted on a lot more stitches to begin with. I did the increases, but then I did decreases and followed that heavy decrease part in the pattern, so it would the shape of it would be more square instead of getting really wide at the beginning. And I did that a couple of times, and then it was okay that it became wide. And I had made calculations so I would be able to fit into the original pattern at one point. So the first part was different, and then I made heavy increases, and then at one point I just ended up at the same part in the pattern, so I could continue knitting after the padding for the rest of the sleeve. So that was how that ended. There was just one more thing about I added to clue 1, because as you can see here, there is a I-cord here, and that's because when I knitted up the sleeve, I added 2 more stitches on either side, so I could do a I-cord edge as I knitted the sleeve, and then I could get this beautiful edge that I could that would look really nice when sewed together with the other parts. And also I can show you under the sleeve how it looks like. See where I was ending. Yes, I also wanted to talk about my fascination about the brioche knitting, because in a way I don't like it, but in another way it's just really really amazing. So in my world, when you are making this large I'm still on the shoulder, when I do this really large increase section here, then to get the square part, then in my head I would have to make the same amount of increases on the other side on the same row. But in brioche, or in this pattern that Stephen has made, he is making the increases over the next 12 rows actually. It's kind of hard to explain, but so the increase row, you knit, you actually make 2 decreases before the increase circle here, the knit or the stitch, and then you do the large increases, which consist of 16 new stitches, and then you decrease again over here by 2 stitches. So in total you have 16 new stitches, and you have decreased with 4 stitches, so you have 12 extra stitches. And then in brioche knitting you knit always 4 rows that goes together. So in normal knitting you have knitted back and forth, you have knitted 2 rows. In brioche knitting you have to knit the same row twice with 2 different colors, and then back twice before you actually have knitted 2 rows. So after you have made the row with the decreases and increases, you knit once more the same way, and then twice the other way, and then you're ready for a new row. And then you make the increases again with 2 decreases, and make 2 decreases on either side, and then that after those 12 rows you end up having the same amount of stitches as you did when you had the row with the large increases, and that in my head would make something that would go more like this, and it probably does, but it doesn't. I mean, you can tell that it kind of stretches in here, but it just looks like it goes straight down. And that's kind of a fascinating thing by brioche knitting, that you can do that. Like small details again I like. Okay, so now I had the sleeve, and I had and I knew how I would fit it to the top here. Actually it's more pretty on the other sleeve. That's kind of how it is sometimes. So I have knitted to here, and then I made the sleeve, so I could actually add the sleeve now to the front section. And then I had to figure out how to end the front section, and then it was hibernating again. And then suddenly I just decided to just knit it and not think so much, and just make it a cardigan with decreases, so it came down a bit in the front, and then I just ended it with the furry yarn I had. This is just an I-code itch bind off, and I think actually it's really nice that way. And also I had a lot of glitter yarn that I used. Maybe you can tell a bit. It was a glitter yarn that I just used the last of, so I can't show you, but it was it had like different colors to it. It was mostly silver, and then there was this little sparkle of pink and blue in it. So that's why it kind of has different colors to it. You have to look it up really close before you can actually tell. So I really liked how it turned out, and I kind of feel that this is more like kind of a showpiece, you could probably call it, because it's not something that you would wear every day, and I would really hate for it to be if it was worn so much that it wouldn't get pretty, stay pretty. So I did wash it once, and my mom has lent it for New Year's evening, but otherwise I actually haven't been wearing it. It's more like a thing that I have out and watch, and I feel it's really pretty. But it was a really fun thing, and I'm not gonna try out to make a pattern for this because I feel that this is so much more a Stephen West pattern that I've been like using and all the time. So I don't know. In respect for him, I wouldn't do it. If it's too close, if what I do is too close to a designer's original design, then I won't do a pattern for it. I don't think that's fair. So I'm not gonna write a pattern for this, but now I've been telling you how it turned out. Yes. So I think I just wanna I planned that I wanna show you how the Chevron shananigan shawl it looks, because I did that afterwards, and I was so much looking forward to using the yarn, and especially the lighter color. I didn't like that color a lot, so I was kind of, how does this turn out? But I have it here, so you can see the light color that has kind of like black like moments in it, like really small black moments. It also got like actually some bright green moments in it, and then it fades over to this greenish color, and then it's only the green color, or the middle green, like, I don't know how to explain that. There are speckles of orange and pink, and the skin color and the forest green, and then it's knitted together with the forest green, and then it ends with the forest green. And then actually I misread the pattern because I was about to end here, but I had this vision that I wanted to do a really bright border, and at the beginning I had planned it to be pink. So now my video stops again. I have to look into if it stops after 30 minutes. So I think I got around to here and talking about the border, and so I plan to use the pink baby sure that was in the texture time shawl for the border. But then I realized that I knit with green and pink all the time. I remember Steven saying in one video that when he was doing these festivals and people were asking him about colors, and maybe he could help them choose some color that were out of their comfort zone, they always ended up using the same color as what they were wearing, because somehow we tend to return to the same colors again and again. And I realized I'm one of those people. So I decided that no, it's not gonna be pink, it's gonna be orange, because I really like that it had these bright orange speckles in this middle color I had colorway. So I decided for an orange, and I found one that I really liked from Hedgehog, and then it didn't become as bright as I envisioned, and I found this really bright orange that I added for the last part. So I'm really satisfied about this shawl. I did post some pictures on Instagram, but I really don't like how those pictures have turned out, because actually when I wear it, I like to have it, now it's a bit tight, but I like that that it kind of shapes around you, like with these pointy edges. See if I can. So this is how I kind of like to wear it, and not quite actually. It's really difficult when you are sitting here, and it's so warm. But something like this, and I happen to being totally in love with this beginning section, even though it got that color I didn't like at the beginning. It comes together somehow, and I think that's really neat, and it's so different, the beginning with all the holes, than the rest of it. So I've been wearing this a lot, and it also goes a lot really good under a jacket. It's hard to make it look nice right now, so like this. It was a really fun knit, and I really love this shawl. That's the best one till date, and yeah, sometimes it's a good thing that you have some really expensive yarn, I guess, because it does turn out a lot prettier. But yeah, I have issues with yarns, because I really love these kind of colors and the expensive yarns, and also because they are a lot more bright in the colors usually. But I also want to save money, so sometimes I try to figure out ways to make it cheaper. So I have one last thing I want to show you in this family of texture time today, before I wrap it up. And I found that I got really inspired by doing this podcast and planning the next podcast. So I got a new design idea. I was wearing this dress the other day, and in a way the colors really scream to each other, and in another way they are really supple. So, and I really like the colors, the green, grass green, orange, pink, purple. So I decided I needed to do another brioche project, and I did need another top, summer top. I don't have that many summer clothes. So I found these yarns, and in a way they kind of are not really supple. That's kind of how I am. And I'm also really inspired of Ankara fabrics, the African wax print fabric. They got this really nice color, I think. So if you want to tell what label brand they are here. So I wasn't scared. I just had to jump right into it, and I was also fascinated again about this first clue in Stephen's pattern. So I did a rethink of that first clue, and it's looking like this right now. It's not quite the same, but there are many similarities. I'm doing I do 4 brioche rows before I change colors, and I keep changing main color, and I do increases on every 8th row, and increases and decreases on every other 8 rows. So that's the green section. And what's going to happen with this is that I want to make a summer top that comes here, and then I'm just going to continue knitting it so it becomes this triangle, and then I hope these triangle tips will be so wide that I can like wrap it around myself and somehow make a closure on the back. And I'm thinking of doing like straps from here that would come around my neck, and these straps will also be be part of the closing on the back. I don't know exactly how it works, and I was like, yesterday I was like, it's not going to be wide enough on me, but then I was like, okay, then I'll just knit a border on the side to make it wider. No problem, we design as we go. So at this moment I'm just excited about how it looks and the colors, and I'm just going to continue knitting, and then I'm going to figure it out along the way how it's going to look. And I only have one more idea for it that I'm going to make. I'm really into ruffles at the moment, and ruffles anywhere, like here it's on my sleeves, but I have this idea of making this big ruffle skirt in mohair under the top, maybe not all the way in front, but maybe just on from the sides and then to the back to kind of close it. And I got this yarn, pink, green, pink again. And making this more flowy, light-weighted, maybe with bigger needles, ruffle skirt on it. That's the idea right now. So that's gonna be exciting how that looks. I will talk more about it as I progress on it. Maybe it doesn't end that project. We'll just have to see what happens with it. I'm just gonna check my notes if I got everything. I think I did. Well, it's time to wrap it up. I hope you really enjoyed going through this podcast with me. I know I didn't talk a lot about yarns and the use of what kind of yarns I'm using. I think that I have so much to talk about when talking about the design process, the yarns, and what kind of a little things, not as important. Somehow it's gonna take a longer time to doing the podcast. So actually, I think that it's the best thing if you want to see what yarns I'm using. I'm pretty good at writing it down in Ravelry under my project page. So you can look it up there. Otherwise, you're also welcome to ask, and I will try to figure it out. I think that's about what I'm gonna say about the yarns today. Yeah. So it's really hot out here. I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching today. It was it's been really great to be able to show my things, and I can feel that I'm actually it's beneficial for myself, because I kind of retalk what I did, and it kind of creates new ideas in my head. So it's all good. So if you like what you see, I hope you will subscribe to my podcast and give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. And I hope you're inspired. And please, as I also said in my introduction, if you feel that you can inspire me in some way, you're always welcome to do that. So have a really lovely day. It's sunny outside here in Denmark, and have a nice day. Bye bye.